Fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to AVOA's second webinar for the year 2023. My name is Tolulope Kolade, and it's my pleasure to be the host. I'm popularly called T-Code. I'm a voiceover artist, a podcaster. I'm also a media enthusiast. I'm also an event host, and it's my pleasure to be doing this again for AVOA. For those who don't know, AVOA stands for the Association of Voiceover Artists of Nigeria. And AVOA is dedicated to seeing that the interest of voice actors across this country is protected. And one of the things that we're doing to ensure that we meet up to that goal is to also educate voice actors in Nigeria. And that's one of the reasons why we're here. Educating voice actors in Nigeria includes developments like this, webinars where we can come to talk about issues that border around our industry. And today is one of those days where we'll be looking at the issue of voice acting as regards animation. It's very obvious now that the animation industry is growing. And of course, the animation industry would not move forward without the collaboration of other creatives, particularly voice actors. And that's why we're looking at the topic we'll be looking at today, Nollywood voice and animation. What prospects for the future? I'm not going to be doing the talking. I'm just here to moderate. So I will be introducing the guests and every other person that you should expect to listen to in this webinar, as well as I'll be telling you what to expect in terms of the order of the event today, because we have not just speakers talking, we also have panel sessions, and different guests will be on those panel sessions. Again, like I said, we're looking at Nollywood, we're looking at animation, we're looking at voiceover in Nigeria, and where these three main industries connect, of course, it's animation. So we have people from these spheres, these industries, that will be talking to us. Before we get into those conversations, before they start, taking their sessions, I would love that, of course, we have to listen to the president of AVOA himself. And I'm talking about no other person than Mr. Segun Arinze. I know he's here right now. I know he can't wait to speak, but sir, would you permit me to do just a two-line introduction so that I'll give honor duly to you, honor is due. Mr. Segun Arinze, also known as Black Arrow, is a multi-talented Nollywood icon, an excelling actor, director, producer, singer, and writer, and he's a voiceover artist with a career spanning decades. He's appeared in over 200 movies, and he was the past president of the Actors Guild of Nigeria, AGN, and is currently the president of the Association of Voiceover Artists of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, if your hands are not too busy, I know I can't hear you clap, but then you can help me with your emojis. Let's welcome the president of the Association of Voiceover Artists of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Arinze. Sir, if you can unmute your mic, we'd love to have you give us the welcome address.
Can you hear me?
Okay, so there seems to be some internet. Okay, I want to believe that it's not from my end. I want to believe it's not just me. We're finding it difficult to hear you, sir. It's really lagging.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hear me.
Okay, it seems like we're beginning to, hear you gradually. Oh, okay. I think we would have. Okay, yeah, yes, I heard that. Yes, the network is bad.
So So can you hear me now?
It's getting better. It's getting better.
Maybe
Let's.
I should log out.
Well, I think we may have to. Probably you should reconnect. That would maybe fix the network issue. We're not sure, but it's very, very, very difficult to make a sentence from what you're saying because of the network error. So we are, it's quite unfortunate, but hopefully you can reconnect, and we'll be happy to hear you give us your welcome address. Okay, so thank you very much, sir, for featuring at this part of the event. I'm still hoping that I can hear from you and we all can hear from you as the event moves on. All right. While we try to see if the president can still join us in this meeting, I'll just love to give you guys a feel of what we'll be expecting in the event for today. Of course, we have great speakers that will be joining, and we have people who are legends in the industry. I'm talking about someone like it's still challenging to pick. Hello, sir, can you hear me? Hello? Okay. Okay, it's still quite a challenge to hear you. So I guess you'll have to still try again, because it's very important for you to speak to us. You're a very big part of this. Anyways, we hope that the network issues can be fixed from your end while we continue with the event. All right. So very soon we're going to bring in the first speaker to speak to us. She can't. I mean, I believe that she's very much ready to speak with us. All right. Sorry. Okay. It's a lot to handle from here. But ladies and gentlemen, we're very sorry for the technical issues. Of course, we know it's Nigeria, so I mean, we have to do what we have to do. I'll go through the order of events while I hope that the president is able to reconnect and join us. We'll be having the first session from our speaker, and the speaker will be talking about the significance of acting in voiceover. The significance of acting in voiceovers, after which we'll be taking question and answers for about 5 minutes. And then we go into the first panel session for today at this event. And the session is about how to become a better actor and voice actor. That will last for about 20 minutes. And we have 4 of our guests who will be panelists on that session. After which we'll watch an animation trailer display of one of the very recently released animations from Nigeria. And I'm sure that will thrill you as you've been impressed to see what we can do in Nigeria. After that, we'll go to the second speaker session, which will focus on the animation business in Nigeria, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That will last for about 15 minutes, and then we take question and answers, and then we go to the next panel session, which is about the successful creative entrepreneur, managing talent and business, and that will last for about 20 minutes. And we also have 4 panelists for that session. So we have a lot to do today. I don't know if the president has been able to connect, but if not, we'll just continue with the event. Very soon we'll be having our first speaker, but before we do that, I just want to give us a bit of information about why we are here. Now, the voiceover industry has existed in Nigeria for decades, and we've seen numerous talents emerge. And for over 20 years of the existence of AVOA, AVOA has been trying to ensure that voice actors understand their craft. Please, I would employ us to kindly mute our mics as we join kindly mute your mic as you join so that we can hear ourselves clearly. So back to what I was saying that for the past 20 years and more, AVOA has been at the forefront of ensuring that voice actors understand their craft, the value of their craft, and they are being respected by clients and stakeholders in the business. Now, while we all grapple with the demands of commercials and narrations, the animation industry has picked up over time. And right now there's a growing demand for voice talents who not just understand commercials, but they're able to act. Maybe I implore you to kindly mute your mic. I think I'll just do it from here. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. We're having more people joining. So please, as you join, mute your mic. All right, back to what I was saying. Yeah, there's a demand for talents who can, not only use their voices to do commercials or what have you, but they have the ability. Yeah, it's understandable anyway. Okay, so they have the ability to not just use their voice to do commercials, but they can, act with their voices. And that's why it is very important for us to find talents who have trained themselves in the act of acting. And also, we need talents from the screen acting or the Nollywood industry who understands the rudiments of acting, and they can, bring that into the voiceover craft or the voice acting craft for animation. So obviously, there's a nexus between these three industries. I'm talking about animation, voiceovers, and screen acting. And that is why we're having this webinar. So the first person who will be speaking today is a legend in the business, and I am hoping that she's around right now. All right, I see that she's around. Okay, it's my pleasure to bring her up. But before I bring her up, let me just acknowledge all of our speakers whom we'll be expecting. We're having on our list of speakers today, we're having one of Nigeria's veteran award-winning actress, Mrs. Joke Silva. We'll also be having a prominent figure in Nollywood, a scriptwriter and the CEO of Teens Africa TV, Mr. Charles Novia. Also, we'll be having a highly respected Nollywood actress, exceptional one in theater as well, Bimbo Akintola. We'll also be having Mr. Makinde Adeniran, who is a versatile director, writer, broadcaster, and social activist in Nigeria. We'll be having the highly accomplished professional in sport and entertainment business, Mr. Obi Asika. We'll also be having West Africa's first voice director for animation, Remy Olutimai. Also on the panel session, and we'll be speaking today, is the barista who is responsible for Gami and the Living Things, one of the brilliant animations that was just recently released in Nigeria. Is going to be talking to us, and that is barista Ikem Isiekwena. And finally, we have on the panel session a highly experienced creative professional and the executive director at Bubbles Communications Limited, Mr. Lukman Sanusi. And these 8 personalities, alongside the host, the president of AVOA, Shegun Arinze, will be speaking to us today on the overall topic,
Can you hear me now?
Voice and animation. What prospects for the future? Yes, I can hear you now, sir.
Finally. Network has been lagging. My audio was lagging. Not funny.
Yes, sir. The floor is all yours.
All right. Good evening, distinguished guests, and sorry about the audio lag. I'd like to warmly welcome everyone to our webinar, second in the series for AVOA. We thought it wise that voiceover actors and actors, live actors, that thing in common, and that's voice. Of course, so when you act, you talk with your voice and all that. And animation is something that's growing gradually in the industry. And we asked ourselves, why not? We've got a lot of voiceover talents who are also actors themselves. And we said, why not? So I decided, based on the experience that I had when we were doing Gami and the Living Things with Barrister Ike Isekwena, it took like about 3-4 years to put it together, but at the end of the day, what we saw was fantastic. And I said, well, way to go. It's something that we can key in. A lot of people want to do animation. A lot of people want to hear the voices, and the collection of actors and actresses in Gambia and the Living Thing was incredible. So we thought it wise that we should start talking about actors doing voices. Voiceover artists doing voice acting, animation, and also being part of Nollywood. And that's why we have the collection of eminent personalities today who are on this platform. Some will be joining much later. And by the way, Gambia and the Living Things only had a premiere in the month of May. It's not officially released yet, but they had a special preview for the former vice president. Professor V.M. Yoshibajo. So we look forward to a lovely evening where from Gambia and the Living Thing, even when it comes to cartoons that people have done that are not yet out, let's share the experience and have fun.
All right, Mr. President, I don't know if you're still there, if you can hear me.
I expect that will be a wonderful one.
Okay. All right. All right. I want to assume that he's done with his speech. Unfortunately, the network issue kicked in again. But I believe, like myself, you also picked up a lot of things from what he just said. That short welcome address. So I don't know if your hands are not too busy. You can drop an emoji to acknowledge and appreciate the president for giving that, very precise and interesting welcome address. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you so much, Emmanuel Okung. I see you, and every other person that is dropping the clap emojis, I see you. All right, guys, it's time for us to get into it fully this time around. We'll be starting off with a speaker session, and of course, one of our esteemed, distinguished guests is going to be taking us in that particular conversation. What's the conversation about? It's about the significance of acting in voiceovers. Trust me, we all need to understand acting as voice talents if we're going to make a headway in the animation industry. And who else to talk about this if not the legendary thespian herself? So allow me to just give a very brief introduction. It won't take so much. And of course, we don't have so much time on our hands. I'm talking about an award-winning veteran actress, a producer, a director, and an acting coach known for her work in theater, film, television, and radio. She has won multiple African Movie Academy Awards and she co-founded Lufodo Groups, which manages the oldest theater in Nigeria. And she also sits on the board of many organizations. I know you know what I'm talking about. If you looked at the design for this event, you would see her name, you see her picture standing gallantly in front. I'm talking about no other person than the legendary Mrs. Joke Silva. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly put those hands together. You can do that by emojis as well, because of course it's a virtual meeting. Mrs. Joke Silva, you're welcome. I consider it an honor to share a stage with you today. And we are so happy to have you. We look forward to hearing you, ma'am. Yes. So the floor is all yours. I believe that Mommy is there. Oh, thank you.
Yes, I am here. I am here. I do hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you for that lovely, lovely introduction. I am very honored and glad to be here speaking about a topic that I really believe in very strongly. When training so many years ago as an actor, I even before my training, actually, I remember in my gap year when I finished my A levels and came back home to Nigeria, and you know, getting into all this, my father was like, okay, this acting thing that you want to do, take a gap year and try and see if you can get work in it and all that. And you know, started out at the University of Lagos, went to television, NTA, which was in Victoria Island at the time. And then, now it was whilst working in NTA that I met the late Jide Ogunbade, who was then working in radio. And he invited me and said, Joke, you know, you have a really good speaking voice. Come and do some radio dramas. And I found it really exciting. It was such fun. It was fun to do, but it wasn't easy. You know, when you read very well and all that, you kind of think that that's what is expected for radio. You know, just have this really good voice and you know, make sense of it. Do you understand? But it's actually much more than that. Fast forward to going back to drama school in England. And one of the main courses that we had as actors was radio drama, voice acting. And this time, one was taken through all the techniques that was necessary for it. I guess because I had worked in radio drama in Lagos, I took particular interest, more interest than some of my colleagues in drama school. And so I really came out with flying colors, but I really worked hard. And, you know, my tutors were very impressed. And it so happened that soon after, just before leaving drama school, some of the first jobs that I got were with BBC Radio, simply because one had done the work that was necessary, so that when, you know, getting the auditions, going for, and you know, one just got the jobs one after the other, after the other, after the other. Now, what's so interesting about voice acting that I find is that it doesn't pay too badly. It actually doesn't pay too badly. And now, in the fast forward again to this era where technology, you know, has opened up so many vistas for voiceover performers, for voice actors. We, you know, this, like you rightly said, there is a nexus between the actor and the animator. And what the actor brings for that collaboration between the actor and the animator is so important, because what the actor brings for the animator is the emotion. That basically is what voice acting, that is the kernel of voice acting. It's very different from just reading the news or reading, you know, just from reading the news. You know, it's very different from just broadcasting. It's the emotion that the actor brings in, and when the actor can emote with just the voice, is an incredible skill to have. Right now, I'm on a job with Walt Disney, which is an animation job with Walt Disney, handled and also with Netflix. And I'm earning so much more than I've earned in feature films. All right. And it's it's just, for me, it's amazing, but it also goes to say to all of us that as actors, the opportunities are myriad in this dispensation. The opportunities as a voice actor are myriad in this dispensation. One, apart from animation, yes, there is animation, but apart from animation, there's also gaming. Those who develop games need good voice interpreters, need good voice emoters. You also have what, in this era of virtual reality, and again, good voice actors are needed for that as well. So the opportunities I believe the opportunities are just going to keep on increasing. So what does that say to then for the actor? We actors must keep our voices in good shape. We need to never ever have to do any work of voice without warming up our voices, learning the technique of how to warm up our voices, and making sure that our vocal cords are not being pushed beyond, are not being pushed and then they get injured. It's very important that those vocal cords are always warm, and it's something that all actors as a whole are extremely lazy people and will only do the work that is necessary. But we do need to realize that in this era that we're in, the actor needs to just have a routine on a daily basis of just warming up the voice, warming up the vocal cords, learning the techniques to do that. And then practicing. In this, the opportunities are so myriad that there are a lot of audiobooks now. This is the era of audiobooks. We can earn a lot of money from doing work with audiobooks. So there's just so much we can do with our voices. The importance of training, I cannot emphasize that enough. When you have the face and the voice together, there's some things that can be forgiven, that can be let go of, because the audience is looking at both, is watching and listening. So there's some things that they may miss from hearing, and then that they will catch in watching. But when it's just the voice, and when it's just the voice, then the importance of being able to be truthful, to make the voice emote in such a way that it marries so well with what the animator is showing is so important. So an understanding of the story, of course, all actors, we know that. But the technique is such that sometimes your director for the animation story is asking you to say lines in so many different ways. So you say that, oh, okay, so your character says, I'm going to school. So you'll say I'm going to school happy. Say I'm going to school sad. Say I'm going to school angry. Say I'm going to school just that one line. You must be able to emote that one line in so many different ways and in so many different subtle ways. So you can say it happy but about to cry. Say it sad but about to laugh. That one line. Because when the animator then gets into the editing room, they're going to be splicing the voice with other actors, with the music and all that. And sometimes you won't even recognize some of the things that were recorded. And so the actor, I will say again, needs to be able to manipulate that voice. Some of the ways that you can do this, apart from, constantly reading and reading out loud and listening back to yourself, is also singing. You don't have to be you don't have to be a singer to performance standard. But the fact that you can, what singing does is that it helps to open up your range, the range to which your voice can travel. And that's what singing training will do for the actor. Again, I'll just conclude by saying that we're going into very interesting times now. We're going into times when there are even more ways of exploiting our talent, So it doesn't have to stay with film, with, the feature. I mean, animation can be feature film animation, but you know what I'm trying to say. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be non-animation alone. It doesn't have to be live theater alone. It doesn't have to be radio alone. There are just so many opportunities that we can exploit just using our voice. Thank you for listening.
Wow, thank you so much, ma'am. That was so brilliant and beautiful. I mean, I've heard voiceover artist, voiceover coach talk about voiceovers, but listening to a thespian, a legend in the industry, I mean, in Nollywood, talk about voiceovers the way you did, that was mind-blowing. And to know that you also started early enough, I mean, in voiceovers, before your days in BBC and all of that, audio dramas, I mean, I feel honored being a voice actor myself. Thank you very much, ma'am. Before you go, because of course you're going to be in the next panel session amongst some other speakers as well, we would just like to have maybe 2 questions from the audience. So I know people listened and they probably had questions they want to ask you. If you have questions, kindly type them, because if I say you should unmute your mic, there might be technical issues, or you may speak for so long. So just type your questions, and the first 2 questions that we get, we would tackle them immediately and go to the next part. So I'm hoping that we get those questions. While I wait for that, a quick rundown of the things I was able to jot. Mrs. Joke Silva told us about how animation and gaming industry are a big deal right now. And interestingly, she earns a lot from voice acting than even from screen acting. That's impressive, She also talked about the fact that we need to keep our voices in good shape. We need to develop a daily routine for warming up our voices, practicing. Training is highly important, and we should understand the story. And the final tip that I cannot forget in a very long time is the fact that singing helps your voice to develop a brilliant range. All right, I think we have a question, and this person is Emmanuel Okung. I hope I got your name right. He says, is there a school for voice acting in Nigeria? Oh, okay.
Yes,
okay.
I'd like to say that we do the Lufodo Academy of Performing Arts that I co-founded with Mr. Olu Jacobs. We do voice acting training, and we're about to start a session in the next couple of months. Just so just for voice acting, we now operate from Glover Memorial Hall. So I'll send the details to Mr. Shegun Arinze, and you can then pick them up from there. Pick it up from there. So we are one of the ones. I know there are many others, so I'm just talking about Lufodo. I'm sure there's a myriad of schools that can teach voice acting. We're one of them. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was spot on. Of course, there are many places that you can learn voiceovers in Nigeria. With a little bit of Google search, I'm sure people can find the others as well. Well, I think that's it for this session. And again, I want to say a very big thank you, Mrs. Joke Silva, for delivering that awesome, session, talking about the importance of acting in voiceovers. And we hope that this will be first of many. We can call on you next time for our conferences or our webinars, and we'll have you attend. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's just give an emoji clap for Mrs. Joke Silva. Yeah, great. Moving on, we're coming to the next part of this event, which is a panel session. This time around, it's not just going to be one person, but we're talking about people who have experience in voice acting and even acting itself. It's a panel session to look at how to become a better voice actor and also how to become a better actor, because I believe the bedrock of voice acting is acting itself. So on this panel, we're going to be having our dear Mrs. Joke Silva. Also, we have another Nollywood actress that will be on this panel. So just let me do the proper introduction of these people. We have we also have a highly respected actress known for her experience and exceptional talent in Nollywood and theater, with an extensive portfolio of over 300 movies and stage productions. She's also actively involved in philanthropy, currently working on an upcoming TV series. International recognition and diverse skills make her a valuable asset to the entertainment industry. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us on this session will be Bimbo Akintola. I wish I could get those claps, but then it's a virtual. All right. So the next person that I will be introducing, just allow me. Great. Thank you. Thank you guys for clapping. Just allow me to read their formalities, and then we have them speak to us. We also have West Africa's first voice director for animation, a trailblazing voice actor with a diverse background and dedication to creative talent development. Is the founder of Voice Acting Africa and has contributed to the growth of Nigerian animation. He's an autism advocate and is involved in audiobook and audio dramas while offering voice acting coaching and consultations for animation projects. I'm talking about no other person than Mr. Remy Olutimai. All right. Okay. And finally, on this session, we have another experienced talent. He's a versatile director, writer, broadcaster, social activist in Nigeria with a strong educational background and extensive experience in theater and film. He has made significant contributions to the Nigerian entertainment industry. He's a passionate advocate for government support in harnessing the nation's talent and promoting cultural and economic growth. I'm talking about no other person than Mr. Makinde Adeniran. All right, so these are the 4 persons that will be on this panel session. And again, let me remind you that the session is about looking at how we can become better actors and voice actors. So at this point, I would love our speakers to unmute their mics. I believe that they're around, they're here. You can unmute your mic and also your video so that we can have a very, very interesting conversation. I'm not sure, I can't see others, but kindly say hi to me. Kindly say hi to everyone.
Hello, Chico.
Hello.
Hey,
Good
Mr.
evening,
Remy.
everyone. Yeah.
It's a pleasure seeing you.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Makinde, it's also a pleasure seeing you. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
And Fantastic. We're also hoping that Bimbo Akintola is here. If she's here,
She
kindly
is.
say hi. Kindly say hi. We love to see your face on the screens. We also love to hear your beautiful voice. So we love you to say hi. All right. I believe she's joining. All
She's
right.
here. She's here.
Okay. Great. So we have our 4 panelists, and we're talking about how to get better as a voice actor, how to become a better voice actor, and being a better actor, actually, which is the base of it. So I'm going to start with the idea of acting without necessarily acting with your body, because that's where voice acting comes into play. It's only your voice that you're using to act. And we understand that this is what is required for animation works. The first question, and because we've had Mrs. Joke Silva speak for a while, I would like to hear the perspective of a man now, and then, we synergize the conversation. Let's talk about how to become a better voice actor. The idea that you can act without your body, what are the skills that is required to take on that imaginative process to a point where, you're not running, but you sound like you're running. You're not fighting, but you sound like you're fighting, even though you're the only one in the booth. What are the skills that is required to be able to put on such an experience that it is so convincing to the listener and even to the blind? So I'm going to start with Mr. Remy Olutimai, who is a director, a voice director. So from the perspective of a director now, who tells you, okay, redo that line. Okay, do it again like this, do it again like this. What are the skills that you believe that, techniques that you think voice actors should have if they're going to become better actors or voice actors?
Thank you, Chico. That's actually a great question. I believe that the voice actor's first job is to master self-awareness. The thing is that it's our state of mind, not the state of body, but our state of mind that determines so many things about us. It determines our attitudes. It determines the way we receive information. It also determines how we handle ourselves in our environment, be it real or virtual. Now, when it comes to things like, I believe the example you brought up was about running. So I think maybe what I can do is just suggest there's a bit of physicality that I would do in my session.
Sorry about that. Let's unmute ourselves.
No, it's not a problem at all.
Yeah.
So the thing is that when it comes to, for my sessions, I introduce a bit of physicality. It's not like you're going to always be able to do so. But what I do is encourage them to excite the body. It could be a case of doing push-ups, like really quick push-ups, or jumping, or doing jumping jacks, or running on the spot. Less than a minute, or less than a minute. Don't worry, there's no need to build muscle or anything like that. And then get back to the mic. But it is very important. Please note this. It is not important to sound tired. Is not an emotion. Tired is not an emotion. It's a state of the body, but it's not an emotion. You should know not just your lines, you should also understand the emotional context with which you are delivering them. So when you put in that bit of physicality, I get back to the mic, you engage that with the delivery that's expected of you. So there's no that for me is the advice that I would give anyone. Running on the spot, jumping jacks or push-ups. It goes on for myriad things, but I'll just keep it.
All right. So just to recap on what you said, it starts from self-awareness, and then whatever script you're playing, you have to take cues from physical workouts or things that you can do physically that would set you in tune for that role. Okay, I think that's a very brilliant answer. And now let's listen to Mr. Makinde Adeniro. Mr. Makinde, from a director and a writer's perspective, and also someone who, you know, is deep into the whole artistry, the question I have for you is, what do you look for in a great actor? And for the benefit of this conversation, precisely in a great voice actor, you know, what do you look out for if you're going to scout for actors? What are the qualities that will make someone make it into your script or into your project?
Good evening once again. What I look for, just to answer your question straight, it's the actor's ability to interpret. It is crucial. You know, an actor is an actor. He's not a trainee. We need to have those, we need to understand those two things differently. Let me share an experience with you. I was once invited to take up a class in Unilag. It's a workshop, but the venue was Unilag, and I had to wait for a class before me. So I was waiting outside there and was listening to the other teacher who was teaching the people who came for the workshop. And he made a statement, and it got me confounded. He said, there are film actors, you know, I can't put the word straight as he did it then. Said he separated film actors from stage actors. And as soon as he ended that workshop, and it was my class, I had to quickly correct that there's nothing like film actors, TV actors, there is just actors. But there are different platforms upon which actors can then determine whether they want to make this small money or this big money. Auntie Joke shared with us the kind of pay that he's getting for just voicing. If she had not been trained and recognizing those different platforms, she will only be stuck with one platform. Yet, you have this capacity as an actor to be this wide. You get, so for me, the knowledge of an actor is crucial about the role he wants to play. And this is where training is essential. You cannot, as a director, radio acting and animation in Nigeria, they are going so high. We are just starting, but it's going so high. I happen to be privileged, one of the so privileged, to be trained by BBC in radio directing and writing. And when we did Story, you know, part of those who created it, if you see the process, you will then know that there is a whole lot an actor can do, right? To bring, it is not about you must know that radio, animation, and all other voicing, this thing, is not so much about your physicality. And these are the different platforms, how to apply to different platforms as an actor. This is where it comes. Stage is about physicality. That's why we call it larger than life. That's why we call it larger than life. Radio, it's about your voice, your ability to manipulate your voice to creating those different sounds. So in our understanding of all these platforms and in our understanding of our own job as actors is crucial. Not dump everything. Is the way the director wants that. No, it is what you bring to the table sometimes, right? That triggers fantastic interpretation for the role you're about to play. So for me, it is crucial. The understanding of the actor, the knowledge of the actor is crucial for me when it comes to radio, animation, and all other voicing.
Wow, I think that's very brilliant. The way you answered that question, very rooted in your first statement, which is the ability of the actor to interpret the script. Thank you very much, Mr. Makinde Adeniro. You said a lot of things, and part of the things that you mentioned, you made reference to, is the ability of the actor to understand the character, to own that character. And that leads me to my next question. But I believe the best person to answer that is also here. By the way, since we have Mr. Segun Arinze here as well, who is a legendary voiceover artist and Nollywood actor himself, I mean, sir, you're welcome to chime in and give us your perspective. We would love to really hear from you. So I want to ask, okay, if you want to speak, the floor is all yours, sir. Okay, I thought.
Yes, you were saying.
Yeah, we're just talking about how to become better actors and voice actors, and it's a conversation that I believe that people like you and Mrs. Joke Silva are very vastly knowledgeable in. So I was saying, if you would love to say something
I get
on this, yeah, go on.
Yes, yes. What I would like to say is I don't want the conversation to deviate into radio, because that's more of audio. Our focus is about the voice for animation. I'm sure that in a short while you'll be able to play with the kind permission of Mr. Ike Kwenava, who has given the privilege of having a clip of the trailer of Gami and the Living Thing, so we will understand what we're talking about. There's a lot of intensity when it comes to doing animation. It's not as acted in real physical and all that, but you're not boxed in. It's a talent thing. It's something that demands expertise, professionalism, and what have you when it comes to doing voice for animation, because there are a lot of nuances. It's not real life. So how do you go about those nuances? I remember that in the course of our doing, Remy, you can attest to that, when we're doing Gami and the Living, that we even at the point in time canceled a whole load of voiceovers and started afresh, because we're not getting the feel of what we wanted. And Mr. Ikem, just a stickler, he's a stickler for perfection. So I learned a lot in that process, that listen, when you're doing animation, it's a different ballgame than when you're doing a voiceover for a commercial or you're doing a radio drama. There are two different things. It's a different ballgame entirely. You need to bring your A game on when you're doing animation, voiceover for animation.
Thank you very much, sir. I think that was spot on. It's a different ballgame entirely. And now let me speak to Mrs. Joke Silva about this difference when it comes to voice acting. Like you said, ma'am, you are currently in an animation project. And so there is that switch from being a screen actor to being a voice actor. Although, just like the previous speaker, Mr. Makinde, said, we're all still actors. But can you tell us more about the uniqueness of voice acting? And this is to voice actors now. We really need to up our skills when it comes to acting. So it would be so beautiful to hear from you, what are the things we need to pay attention to if we are going to become better actors, especially voice actors? Okay, I hope Mrs. Joke Silva can hear me. Okay, she's probably not in the room at present. I'm also hoping that we have Bimbo Akintola on the panel session right now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. It's a pleasure to have you.
Video is on my side.
Oh, okay. But at least now we can hear you. So
Fantastic.
Yeah, great. So I hope you've been, following us and enjoying the conversation so far.
Yes, I have. I listened to Auntie Joke and I listened to the last speaker. It logged me out at some point and I had to log back in, but I'm back here. So I
Okay.
have been following.
Oh, great. So I just asked a question. Unfortunately, I'm not sure she's here with us right now. So if you don't mind, kindly, weigh in on that question. What do you think about voice actors transforming into, voice actors understanding acting itself? Like, what are the cues we can take? What are the lessons we can take from the acting industry, the Nollywood industry, and make ourselves better in terms of acting for animation?
One of the most important things when we're talking about animation is voice. Because unlike regular acting where your face, your eyes, and you have so much, your whole body to use to tell the message, when it comes to animation, because they can't see you, they can see the animation, but your voice is what you're using to move the animation. So there are certain things that are so important. You have to portray clear, defined feelings. If you're happy, your voice must be happy like that. If you're sad, we should also be able to hear it in your voice. We must also be able to see the thinking process between your action and your reaction as an animator. Consistency is important, and all these things we already have as Nollywood actors. It's there as an actor. It's just, I think the main thing, the most important thing is being a believable character.
Hmm.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure that you were done speaking, but I think that's a very...
Yes, because how has Nollywood helped to prepare us to be animators? In essence, it's basically being believable, understanding your character, having a character from point A to B. For me, like for every character I take, whether it's animation or it's a real character, so to speak, one thing I learn the character inside out. I know who the character is. I know the things that make the character happy. I know the things that make the character sad. And I use all this also when I'm doing animation.
All right. Thank you so much, Bimbo. That was very spot on. Understanding the character in and out, what makes the character happy and sad. Those are very brilliant things that we can learn as voice actors. All right. So now that I've engaged yourself, I've engaged Mr. Remy and also Mr. Makinde, it's time for me to take questions from the audience. And I'm sure people want to learn how they can become better voice actors, but then you may have specific questions you'd love to ask from our guests today. Yes, she did come blazing hot. Someone was just complimenting you. All right, so let's keep the ball rolling. Yeah, so if you have questions for our guests before we move on to the next part of this webinar today, this will be a great time to type them in the comment section and we'll just read them out. And any of the guests or any of the panelists will be able to answer the question. While I'm waiting for their questions, while I'm waiting for our audience to ask their questions, I'd like to, indulge Remy and Mr. Makinde. I know you all have things to say when it comes to acting, voice acting, directing. I may not be able to ask you that question, but you had that in mind when you saw the topic, Nollywood, voice acting and animation, what's prospects for the future? So let me get back to Remy and ask you, based on the topic, the grand topic we're looking at, what comes to mind and what would you like people to know about the prospects for the future in Nollywood voiceover and animation? Hi, Remy. Mr. Remy Olutumai, if you can hear me, it's your turn to speak. Okay, I'm not sure Mr. Remy can hear me right now.
All right, thank you, Chico.
All right.
So I'm going to start with this. They expanded. It was like a phenomenal. Hello, can you?
I can hear you. I can't hear you now. Hello? Okay. Well, we'll just move on to Mr. Makinde right now. So, Mr. Makinde, same question goes to you. Before I take Emanuela's question, what comes to mind? Nollywood voiceover or voice acting and animation, what prospects for the future? How do you address that topic, as a speaker here?
Well, I would say there is a great prospect because of the incursion of Nollywood over the years. Like Bimbo Akitola rightly said, Nollywood has prepared the ground for actors to be good in animation, and that is key. However, I have great fear when 80% of the workforce is learning on the job. That tells you that there's a whole lot of training that has to be done. There's a whole lot of training that has to be done. And going into animation, you cannot joke. It's not the same as where we are coming from. So we cannot just pat ourselves in the back and feel that we are ready for animation. Yes, the prospects are there. They are there because an average, this thing is, the potentials are there that we can hit it. But this is where the training is needed. You see, I say animation is cut between stage and radio. In the light of radio, the voice, the stage, the physicality, all that will show in your voice when it comes to animation. And it is only when you are expert enough that you can do that as an actor. It is not just what any actor can get into. I can tell you that. Because it is cut between those two. So preparing for the future, yes, I agree. The potentials are all over the place. But these potentials need the required training. Not what we have presently, where 80% of the workforce in Nollywood are constantly learning on the job.
That's a food for thought. 80% of the workforce currently learning on the job. A lot of training needs to go into our craft. Thank you very much, Mr. Makinde. I'm not sure if Remy can respond right now, but we have a question. Okay, Mr. Remy's back.
No, I'm around.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, I'm so sorry. Yes, the internet had no manners. So,
okay, so do you want to
reset?
Okay, so before we take those questions, quickly, just in less than a minute, what comes to mind with the grand topic we're looking at today?
All right. I agree with Makinde about the workforce catching up, and learning on the job. But there's a bright ray of hope involved, which is the fact that especially with the introduction of AI, these territories are growing as well. And with the kind of knowledge that is available right now, like taking courses, taking coaching, not just in Nigeria, but as like there are different avenues, there are different platforms in which you can actually, should we say, catch up or level up your talent. So I think for me that's a bright ray of light.
All right. Thank you very much, Remy Olutumai. Now we have a question already, and I'm gonna read that question. Hopefully, and I would love to have one of our guests, Bimbo Akintola, respond to that question. And this person, Emanuela Ijoma Odiri, says, how would a voice actor attain emotional clarity? How would a voice actor know that he or she is emoting the right emotions? So, Bimbo Akintola, can you do us the honor of responding to that question?
How How you know you're emoting the right ones? Well, first and foremost, you're working with a director. You're not working alone. And two, in understanding the script and the character that you're portraying and the situation that you're in, these are markers of what sort of emotion you're supposed to be giving out. I'll give you a small scenario. You're in a scene with a little girl you're the mom. She's the child. She fell down, she scraped her knees, and you're talking to her. You know that your words will be soothing because we take from real life experiences. So when you're talking to that child and you're emoting, what we are supposed to hear is comfort, you comforting the child. So for being able to emote, every scene that you're in and the actions within that scene that is portrayed in that scene will tell you exactly what to emote. And also, of course, you'll be working with a director who will be there to guide you. Like when we did Gami and the Living Things, I had the amazing Shegun Arinze there to guide me. It was my second time, I think, doing animation. And I have to be truthful, I didn't train for it. I'm not trained for animation. I am just an actor. But what I was able to understand during that process is the fact that your voice has to tell the story. And it's key for you to understand the story so that your voice can carry it.
All right.
I hope
Thank
I
you so
answered
much.
it.
I believe so. And I hope that Emanuela is satisfied. Thank you so much. Well, I mean, there are a lot of questions popping up right now, and I think these are brilliant questions. I wish we can take them right now, but because of our time, we'll move to the next session. If we can still accommodate the questions later on, we're going to have our guests attend to them. It's been a fascinating event already. We've done a session with Mrs. Joke Silva, where she talked to us about how to become a better voice actor. And then we're looking at that extensively in this first panel session. We're going to be moving on right now. And still to come is another panel session and another conversation. I mean, another a talk about the grand topic we're looking about. But this time around, we'll be looking at it from the business perspective. I believe, or I've noticed that a lot of us are talents and we are creatives, we are actors in our fields, but not many people are business persons or business minded. So now we're going to be looking at animation and voiceovers and Nollywood from the business perspective. And the second speaker to take us right now is Mr. Ikem Isekwena. I hope that he's in the chat right now. I hope he's in the building. But while I'm sorry, Abdul. I'm sorry your question was ignored. It's not intentional, but we're trying to work with time. So like I said, we can still come back to your question once there is time for that. Now we're going to be bringing up Mr. Ikem Isekwena. Mr. Ikem, or Barrister, I beg your pardon. Barrister Ikem Isekwena is a prominent figure in Nigeria's animation industry, known for his work on Gami and the Living Things and assembling top voice talents. With a diverse portfolio that includes educational and explainer videos, he also holds key positions in law and finance, serving as the managing partner at Simon Cooper's Partners and a non-executive director at the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, NSIA. So, ladies and gentlemen, if your hands are not too busy, you either clap or you drop an emoji that shows that you're clapping. Please welcome with me Barrister Ikem Isekwena, the founder. It's a pleasure seeing you, Barrister.
I'm so delighted to be here today. By the way, Barrister isn't part of my name. It's just simply it came just fine.
All right.
Yeah. So thank you for inviting me. I would like to first start by sending my heartfelt and very profound for inviting me and for being part of this journey. Many would recognize that it's not necessarily something that we can all say, it's a slam dunk or it's something that is already established in the country. Animation is still at the very early stages, cradle stages in Nigeria. It requires significant work. And I can tell you, it being a business proposition, we still have quite a bit to do, but I can tell you that the future for animation is extremely exciting. And for everyone who's part of this association of voiceover, actors in Nigeria, I think it's something to take very seriously. So I would first start by sending my regards. I can see my Auntie Joke was online. I don't know if she's still online. Then I can also see that Remy is here. And these are, I'm naming them specifically because we partnered together to produce Gami and the Living Things. We started in 2018 to dream that it was possible to do an entirely Nigerian production in Nigeria. And we had to put a whole lot of resources together to organize both the workforce, the financial resources, and the technical resources to get it done. I wasn't very scared about seeking talented voice actors because the usual suspects that I've just identified they came in handy, obviously, because everyone right up to the late Sadiq Daba, Peter Doche. Now, all these individuals are, not only renowned for the quality of their work, presentation, their voices respectively, but also just their professionalism and good diction, which meant that it was quite easy for us to adapt what we needed to do to these to these individuals. So I'm going to be speaking about this more from a business standpoint. And first is to say that animation globally is a $350 billion industry. And Nigeria contributes almost nothing as of today to that value. But we have started the journey. So I think that when we started, we're collaborating as well with 32 AD, but they went on and they did Mobstars, which, sort of became the first feature-length animation movie in Nigeria. We still took a bit of time to ensure that we got our product and we're done with that. But I can tell you very easily that with the numbers that you would see from the downstream sector, if you were to put an animation project at the quality that you would need to get to make it sort of global standard, you wouldn't get a return if you put it in the Nigerian cinema. So that's one big issue, that we need better distribution networks. And obviously, it's the streaming giants that will provide that sort of dollar backup to make these projects make sense, make any sort of viable business sense. For me, it was a mixture of passion and a calculated business venture because we took a look at this thing. We sort of saw the disorganization in the industry. So there were a lot of animators doing 1-minute projects, 2-minute projects, people launching things. I'm sure you've seen all kinds of things, Shongo, this, people would put out teasers and do all of that. And everybody told me, do a teaser. Don't use your money and produce an entire thing. No, do a teaser. Everybody convinced me, but I was very sure that we knew what we wanted to do and we could get it across the finish line. So what we did was to ensure that we're able to raise sufficient capital to get us across the line. So just to say that you need hundreds of millions of dollars to get any animation project of the sort of scale done. Easily, if you're looking at what a typical animator's salary is, you could be paying some people up to 600,000 if they're on your payroll, some 1 million, depending on their skill level. And there's also scope to train, people. And so, for instance, if I were to just address upstream and say, from an input perspective, what you will need to get the animation done would include, the talents to do the animation, 3D, which is sort of rare in this climate. But increasingly, people are taking on animation. People are going to study animation, at college level. And so you're finding that there's quite, growing interest in that area. Then kids who are younger are also taking on to animation very early as well. So from an input perspective, you can get younger people, train them, and get a project on the way. Then for voice talents, which is where you are, so we worked with all the A-listers that I've mentioned. And we also worked with some people from radio. I find that it was easy to work with people from radio. And just to also allude to what Mr. Arinze had mentioned, that we got to a point in our project where we thought the voices weren't animated enough. So we worked with John Dumelo, who's obviously Ghanaian, and we had to fly him from Accra back to Lagos to do a re-recording. And what we saw was we had a model that we are taking from Star Wars. If any of you are conversant with Star Wars, we referenced Jar Jar Binks. So working with Remy and with Mr. Arinze, we were able to get him to watch this, then also watch one of the characters in Jim Henson's Dark Crystal. And he was able to play out his character after seeing this. So for the voice actors, one of the things that is quite important is you have to be exposed. You have to, and you're living in the most incredible time for information. You've got to go 30, 40 years. I grew up on animation. Animation is my staple. I still watch animation. I would still go pay, I'm in my 40s, but I'll still go to the cinemas to watch animation with my kids. So, I don't have any sort of culture alienation on that ground. But for you, if you want to participate, you would have to really reference a whole lot of these materials, start understanding how characterization occurs, and basically you're able to express yourself once you're in the booth. So that's what we're looking for upstream wise. And I think there's significant scope to participate in this growing industry. Think about this. My business sense of what animation can be in Nigeria, there are two things. First is animation can give us a steady start to be the major content creator around Africa. Already with what we're doing with Nollywood and our live action, we are on that curve, even though we have significant IP protection challenges, right? But having a dominant sort of position, given that we're going to have open markets in Africa, we're going to be the African Free Trade Continental Agreement, the AFCA. The way products and services move across borders will become almost seamless, almost like the EU. So if you think about it, that our domestic production can easily move from catering to 200 million citizens to maybe 1 billion across Africa, right? And that's because we Nigerians, we can tell stories better than any other African country can, I think. We have our diversity that we can bring. We have our swagger that we can sort of, embellish in the minds. And I think it's great significant scope for soft power for the country on the one hand. Then the second aspect is also that there is a very substantial outsourcing market. So the way outsourcing works is what you will find is that most of the Disney productions or anything coming out of DreamWorks, you're going to have an aspect of it that will be completely done in Asia. So the animators are in Asia and they're working, waking up in America or Europe. So there's some significant market potential that anyone who is careful to look would see that it's significant for what we can do. So that's important. Now for voice actors, I can tell you that today already, my firm, our studio, we've done over 1,000 videos just trying to chronicle the Nigerian primary school curriculum. So in math, in English, in social studies, and in science. And we're doing this because we know that there are many kids who are never going to be in school, and probably they're also disinterested in just the typical formal blackboard or whiteboard form of teaching. So we have a virtual teacher, but there's a voiceover behind it. Imagine what we can do with primary 1 to SS3, all the subjects. Imagine what we can do with all the college degrees. Imagine what you can do with training for, the entire civil service at federal level and at state levels, right? Imagine what we can do for corporate training. So this is just even looking at the educational space, business to business. It's quite significant. So in the way of business to consumer to mass market, we'll rely on the Netflix, we'll rely on Disney, we'll rely on Prime. There's still scope for you to work in these respective areas. So I think that it's a massive industry. I got into it out of passion, but I'm also no jackass. I think I'm not that stupid that we just want to throw away money and we don't think we can realize profits. I think we can. And there's just a significant scope for everyone who is a voice actor in this room. We have productions lined up already. We have 2 other productions that will be episodic series running into several hours of content creation. And I am very certain that it is the group here, it's members of your association that we hope to also enlist. So before I sign off, I just want to touch on something, right? And that's to show you just the incredible trait of the Nigerian spirit that I found in the chemistry between Remy and Shegun Arinze. It was really incredible that directors on the Grammy project. And as they alluded to, I like my things done in a way that sort of reaches a standard. We don't want to be mediocre with anything that we're putting out. And we will discuss a concept, we will discuss aspects that we've seen gone wrong, and just the way they would interpret it, get the voice actor back into the booth and get them to do several retakes that, you know, in it you will find all the emotion, you will find all the drama. I found it really, really, really interesting. And so it's fun. So beyond my trying to read many books as a lawyer and do all of this, I find fun and relaxation with animation. And it's something that I'm even probably going to retire into when I'm done with this life. So I'm really elated to have been invited here, and I'm happy to take any questions from the house. Thank you.
Wow, this is, I mean, I consider it's graceful that we have someone like you interested this much in the animation industry, which also tags along the voiceover industry. And thank you so much for being a part of this webinar today. Congratulations again for the successful making of Gami and the Living Things. We're supposed to play that. Unfortunately, I could only stream from my phone. So if there's still a way, I mean, if possibly you can play it from your end, I could make you a host. So if that's possible, to just play the trailer. However, we really appreciate you. We are going to be taking questions right now. So maybe just one question because of our time, because we still have a panel session to go where we'll be having Obi Asika, Charles Novia, Ikem Isekwena, and Lukman Sanusi join us. So just before we get into that part of this webinar tonight, let's take one question addressing the topic that Mr. or Barrister Ikem Isekwena just addressed. And the topic, for those who didn't catch it, is the animation business in Nigeria, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I know he said a lot of things. I picked a lot, especially the fact that it is quite tasking, not just in terms of trying to play characters, but financially, right? It is quite challenging to get animation works done in Nigeria. So if you have a question to ask him, you can type the question in the comment section right now, and I'll read out the question for him to answer. And for those who are just joining, you're welcome to AVOA's second webinar of the year, where we're looking at the topic Nollywood voice and animation. What's prospects for the future? We've had some amazing speakers. We've had Mrs. Joke Silva talk to us about how to become a better actor. We've also had the likes of Remi Olutimai. We've had Makinde Adeniran. We've had Bimbo, and that's Bimbo Akintola. All of them talking about how to become better voice actors and, you know, get more opportunities for yourself in the voiceover and animation industry. Well, we're talking about the business side of things right now. And we've just had Mr. Barrister Ikem Isekwena talk about the animation business in Nigeria, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, it seems we don't have questions for this session, so we'll just go straight to the next session. Once again, Barrister Ikem Isekwena, I want to say a big thank you for that beautiful speech about the animation industry in Nigeria, giving us a closer view about what it entails to run successful animations in the country. All right. Now let's get into the final session for today. And in this session, we're going to be talking about the successful creative entrepreneur, managing talent and business. Yes, obviously, a lot of us here are talents. A lot of us here are voice actors, or we're probably Nollywood actors. But there is the business side of things, the management side of things that brings us together and makes the project work. And we have some fantastic panelists who will be looking at this topic together. And I want you to prepare your questions. I'm talking about the audience right now. I want you to prepare your questions so that they can address these questions, because we're looking at building a successful animation industry with the nexus of these three industries together. That's the Nollywood industry and the voiceover industry. Okay, so I will be introducing them one after the other. And in this next session, we have a highly accomplished professional in the sports and entertainment business, known for his key roles in shaping the industry in Africa, with expertise in event management, executive producing, and talent representation. He has made significant contributions to prestigious projects such as FIFA Under-20 and Cup of Nations. He has a vast experience and extensive network, which makes him a valuable collaborator for impactful projects in Nigeria and West Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about the business mogul, Mr. Obi Asika. Mr. Obi Asika, I mean, kindly give us, I'm talking about the audience now, please give us that round of applause, even if it's as an emoji. Let's acknowledge the presence of Mr. Obi Asika. Thank you so much. I see you, Vivian. I see you, Paul, Faith, and every other person. I really do appreciate that response. All right, the next person that is going to be on this panel session, before I give them the opportunity to unmute their mic and start talking to us, is a highly experienced creative professional currently serving as the executive creative director at Bubbles Communications Limited. It has contributed to the success of BCL through projects like Bubblesville, and is also the creative director at Heavy Wind Media UK Limited, where he initiated Bubbles FM. His expertise extends to art consulting, broadcasting, and writing, with published works and involvement in notable projects like the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library and the BBC drama series Naught Plus Crosses. I'm talking about no other person than the multi-talented Lukman Sanusi. Please give him a resounding round of applause. Oh, thank you very much. It's actually Dr. Lukman Sanusi. I appreciate that from one of the attendees or the audience. Yeah. So we have Dr. Lukman Sanusi. We have Mr. Ikem Isekwena, who we just heard him speak to us about the animation industry, a barrister, by the way. We also have Mr. Obi Asika. And the last but not the least person who will be joining in this panel session is a prominent figure in Nollywood, working as a scriptwriter, a producer, and director. He has a prolific career with over 45 movies to his credit and is the founder of November Productions. He's also known for his influence or his influential presence on social media as the author of Nollywood Till November, Memoirs of a Nollywood Insider. Additionally, he's the CEO of Teens Africa TV, Africa's first teen channel. Ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about the one and only multi-talented, prominent figure, Mr. Charles Novia. A round of applause for Mr. Charles Novia. Let's do it virtually. Thank you so much. I love the cooperation in the room. Lizzie, I see what you're doing, and every other person, Okweyemi, Mr. Ambrose Mosi. By the way, we've been having some AVOA, OGs, like I like to call them, and also legends joining the room. And if I start acknowledging some people, I'm very sure that I will miss out on some. But I see you all the AVOA executives and AVOA members that are here. You are highly recognized and acknowledged. Thank you for being here, and thank you for making this work. For everyone that has been behind the scene, it's been an honor and a pleasure working with you all. So I believe that our panelists are ready and are ready to shoot. So they're going to be talking about the business side of things. And the title of this panel session is The Successful Creative Entrepreneur, Managing Talents and Businesses, or Managing Talent and Business. So let me start by getting their presence, right? Like bringing you up on stage. So I don't know if Mr. Obi Asika can hear me right now. And if he's here, Mr. Obi Asika, kindly unmute your mic and possibly your video. Would love to see you and hear your voice to acknowledge that, we can start the panel session with your presence. Hello, Mr. Obi. Okay, I believe that, I'm not so sure if it's the one right now, but I could hear a mic unmuted. So I am hoping that that's Mr. Obiasika, but it's a pleasure to have him in the house. I saw it was around, a couple of minutes, so I'm so sure that he's going to be joining us. That's if he's not here already. Also, Mr. Lukman, or Dr. Lukman Sanusi, if you're present right now, kindly unmute your mic and possibly your video so we can acknowledge your presence to start this panel.
I'm here. I have a magical animated heart. It appears and disappears. So that's how you know it's me, right?
Talk about creativity. It's a pleasure to have you here, Dr. Lukman Sanusi. And we can't wait to get talking to you. And finally, Mr. Charles Novia, if you can hear me, kindly unmute your mic and your video.
I'm here.
All right. Oh, okay. It's looking like we're going to be having to deal with the network. Okay. Hopefully your network is going to work properly. It's a grand entry. Thank you very much, Stanley, for saying that. Oh, finally. It's nice to see your face, Mr. Charles. I understand. The network is going to be good in no time. Well, I'm still hoping that Mr. Obiasika can register his presence with us so we can just kick off with things in this final part of the webinar. So, Mr. Obiasika, if you're able to hear me right now, kindly just say hi, register your presence with us, and we can start this session. All right, I think we'll just start kickstart things already. And then Mr. Ikem, apologies, Barrister Ikem, I hope you're still with us. I hope
it came works just fine. You can lose the barrister. Yeah.
It works just fine. It works just fine. Thank you. All right. So we want to talk about a successful creative entrepreneur, managing talent and business. And the aim of this particular session is to make us business-minded than just talent, right? Expose us to the realities of managing a business as a creative and how that keys into the animation industry for someone like you, who, of course, is an expert. But let me start with Mr. Lukman, who has had the opportunity of managing talents in different spaces and also teams. Let's talk about the business things, the business side of things. Beyond our talents being able to work for us, how can we really merchandise our crafts from the place of being a talent before we talk about from the place of being an organization? Now, that question is to address people who are here who all they have is their talent, but they are thinking of a way to become entrepreneurs with that talent. How can they merchandise the talent intelligently, that they're not stuck in that space of, I have my talent and I'm waiting for bread to fall into my hands. I'm waiting for the next gig. What are the things and steps that they need to put in place to ensure that they evolve to being an entrepreneur, or what we call a creative entrepreneur? So, Mr. Lukman, with your years of experience, how do you respond to this question? What's your take on this?
All right, thank you so much. And I'm not going to take much of our time. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm very happy to reconnect with faces that I've seen for so many years. I'm talking about Mrs. Joke Jacobs, Bimbo, Charles, Shagun, and Co. I'm very happy to see all of you, including Makinde Adeniro. Now, going straight to the business, I'd like to give us a broader perspective into this, animation business we're talking about. Nkem said something about Walt Disney and how much the business of animation, which over $300 and something billion. I'd also like to give a bit of statistics here. Maybe that would also inspire some of us here. to start thinking, all right. And I'm going to go straight to Avatar 2. All right, the film Avatar 2 is still the highest grossing feature film with over $2.92 billion as of June 2023. All right. And I think somebody mentioned something about what an average animator makes. Again, Mrs. Jacobs said, the amount of money she's earning right now in her current projects as an animator is much more. And she's not far from the truth. Because according to comparable.com, an average animator in the US earned between $33,131 to $751,397. And this is just statistics. This is just to tell us that, we're dealing with a global market here. And then as an entrepreneur, that is the kind of thinking cap you should have. And again, I'd like to quickly say here that as a result of digitization and convergence, our film industry, Nollywood, has gone global. Of course, it's the second, we're the second largest movie, not film, movie producing country in the world. So there's a larger market to tap into. Now I'm going to narrow it down to, as an actor, as an individual who's got talent, who's got his own voice, and you're thinking, how can I market it or become an entrepreneur? I'm, as well as a lot of people here know, that I am a puppeteer. I started off as an actor, and then I moved into puppetry for young people and all of that. And that has led me to establish one of, I'll say, art center here in Nigeria, Bubblesville, as a result of that inspiration. Because I thought, okay, this is a niche industry, puppetry. And if you like, puppetry is also another form of animation. Of course, you know that. All right. And I said, how can I stand out? How can I make a difference? How can I make money? Right. And then I realized that when I started, there was really a need for that. Went into schools, went into beyond school, even went into, there was a project by WWF. They came to Nigeria, and the first person they came to was me, because I had created a niche in the puppet industry in Nigeria here, as well as with NTA. So now, when it comes to animation, like I've just given you statistics, if you start off to say, yeah, and everything is becoming very compact, to have your own studio, all right? And then begin to maybe, like some people said, create a skit, put it up on YouTube, which is also going global as well. You will be recognized, you'll be picked up, and as well as, you have the ears of these great movie producers. And I'm going to give another example. There is, hang on, just give me a second. I think it's also Disney, Iwaju, which is the first African animation. And I think Walt Disney, I don't know, I want to give you the right information. They picked it up and they produced it into, something, and I think they'll soon be releasing it. And this is what I mean. It started off with some Nigerian and some Ghanaians coming together and doing this and pitching to Walt Disney. Again, like I said, digitization has allowed us to go global. And we have, international players, even within our media scape. I'm talking about Amazon, I'm talking about Netflix, and Netflix is also beginning to go into animation as well. So as an entrepreneur, right, in this vast industry, if you start off by creating your stuff and throwing it out there, by, of course, training is very important, and when you want to create something, again, I have to quickly bring it to our notice, whether you're trained as an actor or whatever, whoever is going into animation would look for the big name first, because big names also sell animation. And I'm referring to Madagascar, I'm referring to other big animation Chris Rock, what's his Will Smith's wife and all of that. They go for them first. All right. So as an entrepreneur, put skills together, look for friends, look for whatever, throw it out there, and definitely you will attract market, and that will stand you out. Plus, you have to have the vision, you have to have the passion, like Inkem. If you don't have the passion, you probably be throwing money away. You've got to have the passion, and you sustain it by developing yourself and also by networking. All right. So the most important thing, because I'm going to round off, is first of all, take the advantage of the fact that digitization and convergence has made everything global. So you are no longer talking about Nigeria. You are attracting global market now. 2, have that vision, have that passion, create something for yourself, invest. You have to invest in it as well as, begin to network and get the right people on your team. And definitely the sun will shine. You just have to be persistent. You have to have a clear vision. You have to invest your money in it. It's worked for me, and quite a lot of people on this, a few people on this platform would testify to that. Even though I am in the UK, I get jobs from the UK and I bring down to Nigeria to do. And I can give you 2 examples. The soundscape for Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library, I got it from the UK. I brought it down to Nigeria. I engaged my actors, my friends, and whatever, and we delivered that project. So any day you walk to the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library, and you go to that session where there's audio soundscape about the life and of Olusegun Obasanjo, we produce that. I produce that. And then the recent one is the J.K. Randall Hall Center, which was commissioned by our former president, Buhari, all right, which was last year. I also got it from the UK, brought it down here, produced it in our studio, because we've got a studio here, Bubbles Communication here in Lekki. We produce it and it's brilliant, it's beautiful. So what I'm saying is that if you have a passion for something, you've got to invest, you have to be consistent, and the sun will shine. So let me just stop here and give other people the opportunity to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lukman. I mean, you've said a lot of things. I could go on and on talking about how you emphasized collaboration and networking, having a vision, staying consistent, taking advantage of digitalization, which is like using the social media and all of that. And you also referenced the fact that big names sell animation projects. Now, this leads me to the next conversation that I want to engage Mr. Charles Novia, because I am aware that on this webinar today, we have animators as well. We have voice actors, and we also have Nollywood actors. And we're looking at how we can synergize these 3 industries. But the truth is that it seems as though we have enough voice actors on ground, and we have, of course, Nollywood actors on ground. We just need enough projects to work on. So what is the reality in the space of the animation industry? Because if we have the animation industry, in full gear, we're having projects to work on, then the voice actors will swarm in. So what is the ongoing reality? What's the trend? I know we've been hearing about it. Ikem told us a bit about how it is challenging and tasking, but we want to know from your perspective, so we can prepare our minds as voice actors. Is it a challenge of lack of talent? Like Mr. Makinde said that 80% of people are learning on the job. Is it a challenge of lack of talent, or is it exactly finance, or is it exactly that animators are not just even ready to take up the responsibility? What is the current reality right now for animators? Please shed more light on that, so we can prepare our hearts and minds as voice actors in this business.
All right, thank you very much. Greetings to everybody, and greetings to all our speakers too as well, and colleagues. Sorry if my connection gets distorted. Maybe it's where I am, but to answer your question, what is the state, or what are the options, or what are the prospects I'm
Yes.
I'm sort of I'm an optimist, and I am also a realist too as well. So sometimes, depending on which caps or which of the caps I want to wear, it might not be palatable what I will have to say. In this regard, let me be realistically optimistic.
All right.
And I do think that the tides would turn and things would change. I think there's much traction going on with African content. And I think there's very, very there's much underproduction, if I use that phrase, in the animation sector in Nollywood, in our industry, in Africa even, because it's a very, very expensive venture. It's time consuming. And because there's really no market in that regard, local market for it, a lot of people might not want to go into that to spend their money. A lot of business people to spend them, because you can do animations for like 3 years, 4 years, just to get a feature length or something close to a professional production in that phase. So the background of our industry of Nollywood is basically commercial. It used to be putting 1 kobo and get 10 kobo within 6 months or so, or within 3 months, or depending on what your timelines are. But right now, it's now gone up to about 12 months or 15 months for a good feature length film. So with animation, where you have to do a whole lot of work and do a whole lot of, it's a whole lot. I do not think that the curve is going to be very lucrative in the short term. But I do think that in the next decade, probably within giving, let's say between the next 7 to 10 years, we would have started something. There would be those collaborations. We've seen the stirrings of interest from Disney, from a lot of animation companies, picking up some of the comic books, some of the things that some of the creative writers or creative artists in the comic sector do. I do think that while we're going to lose a few of our talents to a sort of brain drain to Nollywood, the concern should be, how do we grow what we have, what we are nurturing, what we have, the talents we have here. I guess this is one of the reasons why this seminar is important. Is there money to be made? Is there something professional for a voice artist in the animation sector in Nigeria? I can only say, start sowing your seeds now, but give yourself 10 years. Just give yourself 10 years. If 10 years is too far for you, then find other things to do in between. But it is never too late. Whatever it is you train for will come back to meet you later in life, in the course of your professional, surgeons. If you come down to a surgeon, as it were, it will come to meet you. So it is never too late. Why I'm optimistic that it's in 10 years we will hit that curve is because it is a segment of production that is still open. A few people are trying it, and once one person gets it right, the money will chase that person and the others in it, and then people will start putting in a whole lot of money and trying to say, okay, let's spend more time, let's cut the production time from 3-4 years to about 2 years and all that. I think that is going to happen in the next decade, but I do not think it's going to be immediate. But having said that, I do think a lot of training for voice artists will be required. It helps if the artist already has some measure of training in the theater, or some measure of training in acting, or some measure of training, in broadcasting or something. But it's the enunciation, the interpretation, the visualization, of all those things that or the characters that such an artist will be given that is very important. And that's where I think depth would come in. Voice acting is a very, very tasking art itself, because you are bringing to life a character that is in print, or that's in sketch, and you have to give the nuances, you have to give all the, everything. What people are going to see at the end of the day on the screen will be your own interpretation of the directorial treatment. And so it takes a lot. My favorite, I usually give examples, and I like to give examples of, one person in Hollywood who has made more money from doing voice, acting than maybe acting altogether. If I'm not wrong, and Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy, he voiced the lizard or the dragon, in Mulan, the first Mulan, the animation, and then he voiced the donkey in Shrek. And in the history of animation and film, that character is being referred to. And all seminars and what I've gone to, they always talk about that Eddie Murphy, the talent of Eddie Murphy. It was Eddie Murphy who gave life to those two productions. And if you look at the box office numbers of those productions, those films I've talked about, you would see it speaks volumes that Eddie Murphy is it's a comic, stand-up comic, an actor and all that, but that he delved into that and he gave it a different touch, a different interpretation, shows the extent of talent and the hard work. So it's not just about being a voice actor, it is the intrinsic talent which lies in you, the voice artist that will be called to the fore when your director or when a production comes to you to say, voice this. You put in as much work, even more work than an actor who is acting on a live feature, because in a voice interpretation, you cannot really see, you're just imagining, and you're trying to put more nuances, and all that to the character to give it life. At the end of the day, you're giving the artists, the people who are going to do the animation work. You have to embellish all that to make them, to make the production, to make the overall view of that character, come to life. So just rounding up on that, I think that the prospects are there. They're not immediate. What we are doing now, maybe is something that we can put, put a mark on right now and say, 10 years from now, let us look at how some of these things started in a seminar with AVOA, where we said this thing is going to come, but it's going to come. It's going to come. 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there was no chat GPT AI. Now AI is everywhere. We don't know what AI is going to do in the next 3 years or 4 years, So, but I think, like I said, why I said in the next 10 years is because sometimes great movements, great ideas, great fads, and anything that has to do with it takes a full circle within a decade. So if it's just starting now, I do believe by 2033, we would have caught. Nigerians are very enterprising people. So when somebody, like I saw Gami, and I was commend the barrister for that too as well.
Yeah.
He started something. So when somebody starts something and it's successful, I tell you, every other person will want to do this. So kudos, and then let's just keep the hope alive too.
Wow, thank you so much. I mean, that was very insightful, Mr. Charles, and there are a lot of lessons to be learned from what you've said. You emphasize the fact that we need to start sowing our seeds now as voice talents. Yes, the land is not entirely green, as it were, in terms of having everything being put together. It takes a lot of finances, but we can start early, and in the space of like 10 years, things are going to really look very good for us. So thank you so much for weighing in. Now, like I said to the audience now, you can ask your questions. This is, we're looking at the business side of it and not exactly the acting side of it. So if you have questions for any of our panelists, Dr. Lukman Sanusi is still here. I was hoping that we can have Mr. Obi Asika, but unfortunately, it seems like he's not in the room right now. But if he is, Mr. Obi Asika, kindly unmute your mic and talk to us. I have a question for you. But if you're not here, I'm going to throw that question to Ikem. And one more thing I should let you all know is that Gami and the Living Thing is an animation project from Mr. Ikem and his team. And we're supposed to play that in this webinar. So probably before the end of the webinar, I'll find a way to play it from my end here. And if not, I'll drop the link to the trailer so you all can go view it and you see the amazing work we've been up to. Mr. Shegun Anrize, the president of AVOA, was on that project alongside a lot of fascinating voice actors and Nollywood actors that you can only imagine. Anyway, let me get to the next question. And this is for Ikem. Now, we've been hearing about how expensive it is to venture into animation. Mr. Charles Novia just said that he wants to be realistically optimistic because the reality is that it is a sacrificial endeavor. My question to you is that as an African, knowing the challenges, I mean, we are far away from the Disney and all of them. How would you say, or how would you advise that people who want to go into animation, how do you advise them to engage in the place of gathering finance? Because without money, we're not going to move forward. So how do you think that we can gather finance for ourselves or finance the industry or finance our project as animators? If you have tips based on your experience, we'd really love you to share with us.
Okay.
Okay, that
Thank
question is for
you
who?
so much for the question.
Actually, for Ikem.
Okay, all right. All right.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so very good question. I think that the way to look at the industry is that it needs some intentional work. Things will happen by happenstance, and maybe the 10-year time frame is a decade. It's a bit long if we really get our acts right. And remember that I had said there's scope for us to produce content domestically for our market here across various sectors: education, entertainment, professional services, and business to business. But there's also scope for us to create that content. And look at how Korean soaps have become quite a thing on the streaming services. So there's nothing that really stops us, or Japanese anime, right? It's really for us to look at our value chain and see entirely how we're able to fit for the entire value chain. So I'll start from upstream. If you're going to produce, what are the challenges there? So we have this association, we have voice over actors. How best can it be supported? Most of them operate within the context of a gig economy. So what are the things? Training, ensuring that when they are not particularly doing work, they have access to credit, they have basic health insurance services. And these things are things that can actually be structured and can be tied to production, right? If you go from, just from voice actors to the animators, the illustrators, all the guys that are working pre-production and post-production, and actual animation action, all of them as well. The approach we have taken, we initially tried to outsource. Our own forte was we're good in storytelling, we're good with doing basic 2D and doing illustrations and all of that. And we've done this repeatedly, even on the corporate side. So Utriku Studios had a significant history doing some of this, but it was mostly business to business. It was mostly doing stuff, policy work, explaining policy, but really wanted to do something that was entertainment inclined. And what we found was just the sort of dissonance, the sort of expectation you would have for a professional is not. People do not meet up with their time. You are saying you need something in 1 month and it takes, 4 months to get it out. So the service level sort of arrangement in that industry, it needs work. People need to understand that there's professionalism that they should bring to the table. So all of that, what we saw that we need to control our own environment where we could predict, what we wanted to see with our production. And I think that was the best decision we make. So everything we had done before, from a visual perspective that we had done, trying to outsource, we had to basically scrap it. We had to do from scratch. We had to do all of these things, to get the project, to the finish line, right? And so that example, I can tell you that the picture that I have of the Nigerian animation industry is one where all the stakeholders, so government and also participants within the industry, see a need to build comparative advantage. And I'll tell you for free, if you go anywhere in the world, our particular time where we are, we sit in between. So you look at what happens far east, far west. When the guys in New York are going to bed, the guys in Hong Kong or in India, are waking up. So there's that whole distortion of time, but we sit in between them, right? It's quite a scope for Nigeria to be an outsourcing great. My Indian friends would tell me that in India, they have this large population, but just a small percentage of them speak English, right? But we've got free education, teaching people English, primary school, secondary school. Most Nigerians speak English. So most Nigerians can interpret material from the West better than you have an animator who's Indian or Korean interpreting that. So we have some things that are natural advantages with our system, with our education, and with just our culture, right? So how do we bring those things to bear? It needs support. So you'll find that any country that has grown in animation, because of the heavy sunk cost, the heavy investment that is involved, most of them will do it with either their Ministry of Trade and Investment investing in it, the Ministry of Culture, or maybe a sovereign wealth fund or something, investing in it because it's obviously a great tool for soft power. Story, fable, myth, the legends, that you can aggregate from our history. Only recently, I was reading a work done by an American in the 19th century, precisely, I think, 1887, a gentleman who was a sociologist, in the University of Chicago back then. And he had come to the southern parts of Nigeria and Cameroon. And what he had done was he had curated Nigerian stories. And there are just a whole lot of these stories that were telling people in Efik, in Benin, in Ijaw, in Orobo. So you've got this massive storytelling potential. What you is a sort of distorted value chain that needs organizing. How do we fix the upstream? Ensure that talents understand professionalism, their technical proficiency on the one hand, ensure that also they can continue to live a life. You can't tell people, when people are scraping through, say, come and do a job for 50K, 100K. I mean, with inflation, that really doesn't do anything for people. So it needs to be worth people's, time, right? So that's important. So there needs to be a credit system also that supports that. And, if you now take a look at, now, if you look from an equipment standpoint, one of the big things that you would find in some South American countries is that they have these sort of trading agreements, trading whatever joint production agreements with America, where Universal Studios, Disney Studios, these guys always change their equipment, they depreciate it, put down the value, and they sell it for peanuts. Now, most of those things will go to Chile, they will go to Argentina. So everything studio needs, is sitting in an American studio, because most times by fall of this year, many of these studios in Orlando, in Florida and all that, and some in LA are changing their gear, right? For us, we had to upfront, investment of almost 100 million to get a proper render farm that can do CGI work here, right? So you're talking about that sort of, just one studio, right? You're talking about how is anybody able to put up that sort of capital, except that it's just patient capital from also try to be pioneers in this, and we're willing to sort of take a calculated risk, right? So there's a need for that sort of value chain revitalizing. You need to look at it. So what we take to get equipment, we don't need to get the cheapest, we don't need to get the most expensive equipment. We can enter into sensible trade arrangements where we're getting this enough studios, and there are trade and commerce attaches here. They'll be more than happy to conclude these sort of deals, because it helps them fulfill a quota, there and all that. So we just need, and again, you see that government needs to facilitate a lot of these things. That's pretty important. Then also, we just need to be sensible. For instance, we used Blender to do our animation. Now, Blender is free software, right? And it's open software. It's open and it's open source. It means that it keeps getting developed every time. And because the amount it to take us to license, and we didn't want to do a production where you're cracking licenses and doing all that. The amount of money to take us to purchase $500 for one license, and you have 25 animators, that's significant investment. So, ahead of time, you've got to plan your studio in a way that it runs lean. You clearly understand that, the sort of business dynamics would not allow you to, run in a way that, isn't austere. So that's very important. So it's also important that, the climate for the kind of software and technology that will support worthwhile productions, productions that are decent. We are able to put that, and it's financing. It's also the fact that, for instance, I know that the Bank of Industry has a current sort of program. It's called IDAS, and is also supported by the AFDB. And one of the things that you'll find is that there's scope for creative sort of finance. So I would say it's not necessarily a 10-year time frame. It just needs serious people. It needs serious people, and in being serious is just understanding that, okay, it's a business. There are markets. There are things to do. I would also like for Nigeria to be able to sort of, and I'm not talking about trying to go and compete with Netflix toe for toe or something, but I just think that at the end of the day, it's markets. It's how are you able to get more people to watch more content? Are you able to sort of monetize this population that you have? We don't necessarily need everybody paying 2,000 naira to watch our movies, but if you have, like 50 million people paying 500 naira, that's like 2.5 million, something that we haven't quite seen in any of the cinema revenues and all. So we've got to think about everything from upstream, downwards, midstream to downstream, and really look at the scope. We have a young population, so it's not time for us to get sort of discouraged or think that. No, it's time for us to just put our thinking hats on. Say people will need to be educated. It's a basic service, right? So it's not just entertainment. There's education. You have over 10 million children who are out of school. I will say that if you had a physics lecture that was completely animated and you have fantastic voice acting backing it, that's business. That's business and all of that. So there is indeed that scope. It's just the organization. And this is going to be a collaboration with governments, associations like this. One of the things that we have done was to try to get animators together, to cluster together so that you can have that sort of front for which you can engage collectively around standards, engage collectively around things that could be common infrastructure. There's no point in us just in a render farm. If you can have a render farm that everyone else can use, so when we have dormant capacity, someone else brings their stuff and pays a rent for us, that just good. We need more activity, we need more productions, we need more things, we need more ideas, we need more stories being told, we need more animators, we need more actors, we need quite a significant bit. But at the end of the day, it's a market play. And I think that the major problem that I see is that we need to have a closer, a sort of, we need to be able to control our markets in that way, in the sense that we are able to produce for Africa and have a platform that the content can be displayed on. Thank you. I hope I haven't overshot my. Yes, sorry.
Thank you so much.
If you were going to, I just wanted to show everyone the quality of what was produced entirely in Nigeria. And I would, if you would allow me share, I can play the trailer for you now, so that it's not that we're just speaking something that is far off. Everyone can, sort of get a sense and a feel of what the picture looks like, and also listening for like the voice acting. So I'm able to, if you would allow, me sharing right.
I'll definitely do that right now. I've done that, so you can make an attempt.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Absolutely. Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm playing it now.
Stuck and kind of bored here. I feel I belong someplace else. Want to go and give my talent and don't blow. Want to be in another style. This one is a rock style. I know that your sanctuary in Lagos. Who knows? Under the right hands, you may hitch a ride with us to me. Okay, it's okay. Last price. No more, no less. It's a pure artistic interface through which humans and animals can communicate.
Gabby, I asked what's the plan. Did you just bring us all here without one?
Andy, Relax. Your time is look. We can use some of your rhythm around here. Let's focus on the good news. We're playing tomorrow. Mega. Oh yeah. Been looking at all the wrong places.
I think this is beautiful.
In the mountains by the border to a rare race of mountain shrooms.
Okay. I think this is
Including the arts, both fine and martial.
wow. So I don't mean to be the party spoiler, but then we're running out of time. But I wish we could just keep watching. I wasn't even expecting this, but come on, this is amazing. 3D and some 2Ds and all of that. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so that's a bit of just a mock-up to show, what was done. And so, yeah.
Wow. It's quite impressive.
Yeah.
Wow, it's impressive. Impressive. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. And for me, allow me to just say this because we're gradually coming to the end of the event. And there's just one question that we can, allow for this panel session because of how far we've had this a webinar. So I'll just say that I'm so motivated by your dream. You're not exactly a voice actor or an animator. You're a barrister, but you had a dream about this, and this is it's a reality. And so thank you very much for believing in this, and it's a blessing to every other person in the ecosystem. Thank you so much. Wow. Well, thank you for your response as well. You said a lot of things like improving our professionalism and the government intervention and trade agreements, a credit system to support talent, and a youthful population. When we put all of this together, there are sort of like solutions to financing the animation industry. And when the finance comes in, then the animators can work, the voice actors can work with befitting pay, and we have a thriving industry. And I think that's very incredible and spot on. While you were speaking, a question came in, and this question is from, I think that was Mr. Eric Maximus. Yes. Just a minute to find that question. By the way, guys, we have the link to the trailer of this particular animation that you just saw. We have the link in the comment section or the chat session. So you can find that in the chat box, and you'll be linked to the trailer. The question from Mr. Eric Maximus Ekweme is that how come we don't have talent management or representation for voice actors? I'm going to throw that question to Dr. Lukman Sanusi, who is, as he said, in the UK. And I know that those things exist over there, but in Nigeria, unfortunately, we've not had to the best of my knowledge, talent management or representation for voice actors. So Dr. Lukman, what do you think can be a solution to this? Or you can answer that question directly. How come we don't have those organizations for voice actors in Nigeria?
I think that should be a straightforward question because as it is, we don't even have management in place for talent. For actors, visual actors, not to talk of the one for voiceover, in the sense that, and this is the popular, well, not really popular, but they say that ugly people do radio, but that's not true now because, an animator earns twice as much as a stage or movie actors. Even management in the UK, you can also, there's a way you can circumvent it, as much as it's very sacrosanct in the sense that everything is by equity and all of that. But like I said, the good thing about that is that you have a management representing you and getting you big jobs, including international jobs and all that. But with Nigeria, I've had experience of actors being managed by a particular either person or quasi organization who say they manage talent, but at the end of the day, there's always that infighting, quarreling, and all that, and it never worked. And I think even for Nollywood, I remember when I wanted to do some project, I put some, friends or actors, talents to say, would like to involve you. So please speak to my manager. All right. And then that becomes a problem. All right. Because then the manager begins to demand, especially in the early days of Nollywood, maybe Francis Duru would bear me witness. And then the manager will say, can you pay 200,000 naira, into the actor's account first? But at some point, they started demanding for dollars. And, it gets in the way. It gets in the way in the sense that we are not there yet. We are not, we haven't got the mechanism, we haven't got, and they can't get to the big job. I don't know, because as much as I have left Nigeria a long time, but I still come in, from time to time, at least maybe three times a year. And I still know how, I know how the system works. But what I'm saying is that it becomes very difficult because the system is not really like you have in the UK. They have act, they have charter, they have everything. You can report a management to the equity and vice versa. But here in Nigeria, an actor can take your money through the manager and then they don't come and say, all sorts. So it's not, it's very difficult to have a management structure. In the days of collective artists, Chop Mike, they were like a quasi-management organization representing actors and discussing deals and whatnot. So it's still a challenge. That's why, except maybe someone out there can actually take it up and say, you know what, I'm going to be professional about this. I'm going to get you jobs, and then you as an actor have to be professional in terms of delivering your part, play your part. If they know that they can be sued, or you can also sue a production company, then things will begin to work. But here, hey, we'll do the Nigerian style, So I would say it's not, it's still a challenge. It's a work in progress. So that's why people are not representing what, that's my own opinion, actually.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lukman Sanusi, for that response. I mean, it's been an amazing night having people like you speak to us about, your experience in this industry, the animation, the voiceover, the Nollywood industry, and how we can come together as three industries in one to ensure that we see progress in the animation system and benefit everyone all together. I really do appreciate you for your time. I also want to hear maybe a last remark from Mr. Charles Novia, who took us on a journey, talking about being optimistic about the industry, the realities of the industry. So, Mr. Charles Novia, can we have your closing remark as we come to the end of this webinar gradually? Okay, I'm not sure that he is here right now, is able to join us. So I'll just come to wrap it up. So thank you so much, Mr. Charles Novia. Thank you so much, Dr. Lukman Sanusi, and also the incredible Ikem, who is the brain behind the animation we just watched, Barrister Ikem Ise Kwena. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your knowledge with us. It's been an awesome night with AVOA and with brothers, sister industry. I see that the president is still here, Mr. Shegun Arinze, and I want to believe that your network is good now. So you can also, speak to us. Yeah.
I've been listening to everybody, and
Awesome.
it's been an awesome evening. I mean, these are the things that we need to document to help us push forward. We should be able to go back to things like listen to them, and it helps us prepare for the task ahead. I want to say a very big thank you to everybody who has been part of this. It's been tremendous, and particularly you, Kola T Code. You've just been off the hook,
Thank you,
completely
sir.
off the hook. I want to say a very thank you. It's Malam Abdul on the platform. Malam Abdul Mohammed, my vice president. Is he there? If you're there, sir, can you unmute? Are you there, sir?
He is.
All right, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I would like you to do the vote of thanks. I would like you to do the
Right
vote
here,
of thanks, sir.
President.
Please go ahead and do the vote of thanks, please.
Well, you've done that already, but all the same,
No,
and
go ahead and do
it was
that. Do
awesome, first of all. Thank you very much, T-Code. You've been wonderful, awesome, and all our guests that spoke this evening were quite inspiring. I don't want to mention names. These are people everybody knows. Charles Novia, Kem, well, and all the rest. Auntie.
Okay.
Oh, there I go. Sorry, I've passed my sleeping time. Forgive me, but we do sincerely hope that this webinar will lead to greater things, because the aim from the ESCO, the idea had been to start seeing how we can bring professionals, icons like this on board, and how to trigger a kind of synergy between voice actors and all other creatives, since all our jobs are intertwined, and that this could be a vista for new beginnings, especially in this age of breathtaking technology. This is our own way of upgrading, and I hope this will inspire our members beyond our expectation. And like the president said, this is just the beginning. We thank you very much, but please do not be out with us. We will soon be calling you again. We'll call you again and again and again. You owe it a duty. What you guys owe this country now is the legacy. Thank you very much on behalf of AVOA once again, and on behalf of myself. T-Code, one love.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. That's the Vice President of AVOA. You just heard his voice, Malam Abdul Mohammed. And it's been a pleasure from my end hosting these great people from different industries. I want to say a very big thank you to AVOA for making this possible. I mean, without the brilliant initiative from AVOA and its executive, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you so much. And thank you to all of our guests, starting from Mrs. Joke Silva, or Joke Jacobs, me Silva, like someone corrected me, Mr. Charles Novia, Bimbo Akintola, Makinde, Adeniran, Obiasika, unfortunately had to leave. It was here at the beginning for almost an hour. Remi Lutmai has been here as well, Ikem Isekwena, and Lukman Sanusi. I look forward to another time where we'll be able to have another conversation that will be inspiring and motivating us to the next breakthrough in our industries, respectively. Till then, I would encourage everybody to keep upping their games. Like you heard it, everything that has been said in this webinar, pay attention to those things. If you had your notes with you, the main thing is to stay professional, network, and just a whole lot of things that I can't go through right now. But I have taken some notes and I'll be implementing those. My name is Tolu Kolade, popularly known as T-Code. I'm a voiceover artist, a podcaster. I am one of the podcasters who has a podcast dedicated to the voiceover industry. So the name of my podcast is the Everything Voiceovers Podcast, The African Perspective. I have interviewed some voiceover personalities across Africa, including Mr. Shegun Arinze himself, and a couple of other people too across the continent and even in Nigeria. So you can learn about voiceovers via my podcast, Everything Voiceovers Podcast. Search for it anywhere and you'll find it. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And this is where I'll be bowing out. I don't know, but I think we can all start unmuting our mics and saying thank yous and bye-byes in the next 2 minutes. I'll be ending or closing.
You're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good
Thank
night.
you, Tico.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Tico.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Tico.
Thank you, Tico.
Wonderful.